Hi, I'm Kristen. In today's video, I want to talk to you about something that I do that really just gives me a little oomph in my day. I love natural nails that are freshly manicured. When I used to be the crochet expert on Knitting Daily TV, I would have to get a manicure at a salon the day before travel day, then have a travel day, and then not go on set to get filmed with my hands till 2 days later. Very often I would have chips already at that point. And over the years I've talked to nail technicians, including my sister, and gotten some tips and tricks along the way. And I now have a system that works for me that gives me a beautiful manicure for at least a week. I'll drop in a picture so you can see what the last manicure I had looked like after 7 days. You're just going to need a few supplies. You need a base coat and top coat. I use one that actually is a combination, so I only need one product. You're going to need a nail polish of your choice, a nail file, and these really amazing nail buffer blocks, which I think is the key to a great manicure. And you're going to need to take the time to let it dry, which is one of the things that's the hardest part about having a manicure, is finding a way to squeeze in not the time to do your nails, but to let them dry. One tip that I have is I usually try to paint my nails right before I have to go drive for a while. I'm on my way to FedEx and to run a couple errands today, so I'm going to do my nails before I walk out the door, already having the car packed, so that as I'm driving, all I have to do is turn over the key and put my hands on the steering wheel, and it's going to give me about 15-20 minutes of dry time. By that time, they'll be tacky, and I can go about my day. So let's get started. All right, if you need to file your nails since your last manicure, now would be the time to do it. You just want to clean them up. At the nail salon, they always ask if you want them squared off or rounded, and I find that rounded looks a little more natural to me. So they also say that you should only work in one direction when filing your nails so that you don't weaken your nail, but that's something that I don't think is always practical when I'm doing my own nails. So I just do the best you can. If you can do it in one direction, fine. If you can't, don't be too mad at yourself about it. There's enough stuff to get upset with yourself about, right? And if you notice, I had dark red nail polish in my last manicure, which is sometimes really difficult to get rid of before doing another color. And just to prove a point that the buffer is such a great tool, I'm going to show you that I can do a very light color after a dark red, and you can see that there are still some residuals on my nails after taking the polish off. But that's what's so great about this square buffer, is that it gets all of that last bit off. And in my opinion, what I think makes it so special about doing your nails is that, or allowing the polish to stay on so well, is the fact that I think it roughs up the surface just enough that it like gives teeth, it gives a texture to your nail, and it allows the polish to have more surface to adhere to. I don't know, that's kind of my theory, and that's what I go with. But I got to tell you, I've never seen polish last as long as when I use these. So what I do now is just rough up the surface of my nail. I do this on my toes when I give myself a pedicure as well. The only thing about a pedicure is I don't have all of the tools for doing all of the extra services that they do during a pedicure. But I can certainly polish my toes in between pedicures or in between winging it on my own, and I do get the polish to stay on for a very long time, just about a month. I think even with doing my nails, I usually take the polish off because it started to wear off and because I'm getting growth at the cuticle line, not because it chips. I couldn't even tell you the last time my polish has chipped on my fingers. And considering how much I work with my hands, I really do feel like that's saying a lot. I mean, on any given day, I'm working with pliers and metal chain, or I'm working with wood and a hammer, or I'm working with yarn and needles, or cooking or cleaning or whatever, I'm always doing something with my hands, and I'm always rough with my hands. So the fact that my nail polish doesn't chip, it just wears off, I really think is remarkable. You can see where the red polish is coming off onto the block instead of on my nails. So just really no method or science to it, just rough them up and it gives you a nice solid smooth surface. I'm going to just wipe the powder off with my paper towel. Again, I don't actually do much in the way of fancy or scientific method in this because I'm usually in a hurry. All right, so next we're going to do a bottom coat, our base coat, and this particular product happens to be a base coat and a top coat rolled into one, which means I only have to have one product. But if you're not going to use something like that, you would want to use a base coat on the bottom, 2 layers of your polish, and a top coat on top. To avoid shakes when you're doing this, definitely press the hand that you're trying to polish into a surface. It gets out all the shakes, and you want to start at the cuticle line and sweep up. There's all kinds of ways to clean up your mess. Don't be upset with yourself if you're not good at this at first. I used to get so upset with myself saying, oh, I can't do a pretty manicure, so I'm never going to do my own nails. And I had an epiphany one day. I said, you know what? You probably weren't good at knitting or crochet or cooking or anything else you do on the first day. And what did you do to get better at it? You practiced. So I realized if I do this many different variety of things with my hands every day, there's no reason why I can't get good at polishing my own nails. And until I do get good at it, I'm going to have extra tools that help me to clean it up and look like I'm better at it. And one of those tools would be to grab a tiny little paintbrush out of your crafting tools and fill the cap of your nail polish remover. Just fill it with a little nail polish remover, dip in your brush, and clean up the edges as you go. And I'll show you that later if I make any gigantic messes on my nails. So far I'm just doing the base coat, so I'm not worried about it. All right, so we're going to do 2 layers of this polish. This one is called Mimosas for Mr. and Mrs. I always like to look at the names. They're fun to me. If I hate the name, I generally won't buy the polish. Okay, so we're going to start at the cuticle line and just try to sweep up. And because you're doing 2 layers, you don't want to try and get everything on the first coat. If you can get from the cuticle line up and almost to the edge on the sides, that's good enough for the first coat. Because on the second coat, it will thicken everything up and you'll be able to see if there's places that you missed. But you're just really trying to get it started with the first coat. Sometimes my thumbs, I'm not really comfortable laying them on the table, so I'm going to hold a fist, and that gives me a little more stability than the rest of them. Pressing my fingers into the table definitely helps for stability. And see how I put in a little too much polish there and it's starting to pool up around my cuticle? What I like to do is take my thumbnail from the opposite hand and just kind of scrape it along the cuticle, and that cleans it up really nicely. It just goes underneath the nail on the opposite hand, so it really doesn't show, and that's easy to clean up when you start, when you clean up at the end. I got a little too much polish on this one too, but if it goes outside the lines, I'm going to see if I can get it to just settle. That one's going to settle. Different polishes go on differently. Some are thicker, some are thinner, some are more opaque, some are very translucent. In fact, I have a couple of dark polishes that you'd think would be a nightmare to put on, that they'd be really thick, but they go on so sheer in the first layer that it's actually really easy to put on some of the darker colors. red is going to always be the hardest color to put on. See, I just scrape the sides if I go outside the nail bed. If you're looking for an instant reward, go with a light color. You'll feel much better about your first efforts if you do something that's more of a beginner color. Save red for when you've had a little more practice. Okay, this one pooled, so I'm going to scrape it with my opposite thumbnail. Now, if you didn't like how thick that looks at this point, you could always let it dry a little bit and add a third layer. I'm okay with it being fairly sheer. I realize I am going to have to scrape out underneath my nails a little better. It's amazing what you find under your nails when you've worn a dark color all week, unfortunately, but hey, you know, that's reality. All right, I'm going to make a fist to get my thumbnail done, and then lay my hand back down for stability for the rest of the nails. And just so you know, I've been doing this for several years now, which is why I'm doing such a clean job. Trust me, the first time I did this, I had just as much nail polish on my skin as I did on my nails. In fact, I'll show you what you would do if that's the case. We'll do a crazy job on my pinky. Okay, imagine if my hand was shaky, I wasn't comfortable, I'm right-handed, so doing this with my left hand could be a nightmare too. What if I just went completely outside my nail? Now granted, on a light color like that, it's not the end of the world either. But let me show you what you would do. You'd take your nail polish remover and pour some into the cap. Take your little craft paintbrush, it does not have to be fancy, dip it in, blot it out on your paper towel, and just gently brush around the outside of the nail on all the skin that has the nail polish on it. And honestly, this really, really works. If it doesn't work on the first time, if you don't get all of it, just do it again. Do it a couple of times if you have to. Wait till it dries a little further and do it again. But it honestly works. Okay, so the nails are done. I'm happy with the opacity of 2 layers, so I'm going to put on my top coat. It's really, really important that you do a base and a top coat. There's no reason to spend all of this effort on doing your nails and not making it last. It's totally worth it to put a base and top coat on. It keeps the nail polish in place. It gives you a beautiful shine on the top. It really looks professional. And I do think that it helps your polish last a lot longer too. As your jar gets empty, it's important that you tip it to get the right amount on. And if you have too much on, always just brush a little back into the jar. Of course, that's when your face starts to itch, as soon as you start to get tickles when you really shouldn't be using your nails. And we are in the home stretch here. You definitely want to give your nails 15-20 minutes to dry before doing anything like washing your hair or putting on makeup or even typing. I would try to wait for at least 15 minutes before doing that. If you wait at least 5 minutes, they'll be tacky dry. And if you need to do something important at that point, what you want to do is dab a little oil on your nails, or even use that spray oil like Pam that you buy for the kitchen. Spray that on your nails, and that will give you an extra protection before having to do something that you shouldn't do until your nails are dry. For me, I've got my shipping packages already in the car, my purse. All I have to do is unlock my car and stick my key in, and I've got a 20-minute drive to let my nails dry. Hope that helps you. I know it helps me to have pretty nails, so that even when I haven't done my hair or my makeup, it makes me feel like I've done something pretty and special for myself. Talk to you soon.